Like Jeopardy.
All right, would you all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
His flag.
of the justice for all. Right. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get started here. Just a housekeeping note. We have one select board member, Tom Anderson's coming in via Zoom. You hear us okay, Tom?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good. We can see you bright and clear. Yep, so good enough. All right. So with that, I'm going to call the October 18th meeting of the Damariscotta Board of Assessors to order. We have a couple of things we'll take care of. We do have some minutes from the September 6th assessors meeting. Everybody all set with those? Any comments, questions? Okay. We can entertain a motion.
Yep.
Yeah, go-
On the first line of members, it has Tom Andrews instead of Tom Anderson.
Okay. Yeah. So correction on your name.
Yep.
Okay.
You're right.
Why don't you, do you want to make a motion with the correction?
Yes, please correct my name from Tom Andrews to Tom Anderson. And as far as that whole set of minutes at the section 6, oh, sorry, it's my alarm system. Section 6, under 4, it says Tom Anderson commended Andy for a rotary spear. And it should be
Tom,
commended Andy for his speech
Yeah.
at the Rotary.
Yeah, this is just on the Board of Assessors,
Okay, all right.
September 6th. Yeah, so we'll get to those. We have to do those separate. So we had we had a lot of minutes come through here. So hang on a second. Let me get it in front of me.
Yeah, that was for the, well, that was for the Board of Selectmen.
It was a combined same day, same night, just, they're all on that one.
Right, there's two. We had the Board of Assessors minutes, then we go to Select Board. There's two separate minutes. So which,
It is the Board of.
No,
Assessors.
it's a separate.
No, it is separate. I'm sorry.
It ends at the top of the second page there.
yeah, right. That's right here.
Oh,
So,
right,
yeah, so
okay.
then, all right. So Tom, you've got a motion. Have you made a motion to approve the
Yes.
minutes of this Board of Assessors meeting? Okay, I'll second Tom's motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, who's passing Tom as well? All right, cool. So we do have some abatements that were presented to us. Anything, Andy, you want to add anything to those? Anybody got a chance to look at them? Do we have any
I looked at them.
questions, comments from the board? Tom, any questions, comments on the
No,
abatements?
no, they look good.
Yeah, Andy, anything to add other than we saw in the packet?
Nope.
We're good?
They, sorry, yeah, they did remove one of them. In your packet, there was a personal property for 2023. There was two of them. One was for Nestle, one was for, I don't pronounce it, Terrio or,
Right.
and that one was an overvaluation. And so where it's
Okay.
over 185 days, they don't have the ability to appeal to the select board. The other one for Nestle was an error. They sent us the form in early 2022, and somewhere along the way in the office, they don't have a copy of it. So they provided that copy that they had sent us.
Mhm.
And for the value there, we'll take their
That was the big one.
word. Yeah, the $4.99.
$4.99. Okay.
Yep.
We'll take
So
the word for it. Yes, and that.
that was the only change from what you had had, and that was again just an older tax year.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the abatements as presented this evening.
Awesome.
Andrew, your second? Here, okay, yeah. Andrew, seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, yep, that's all five of us. Okay, we don't have any other reports on as far as Board of Assessors go, Andy?
We do not.
Good, okay. Any discussion from the board regarding the Board of Assessors? Are we good? All right, let's entertain a motion to,
I'll make a motion to adjourn assessors.
thank you,
Second.
Josh. Second? Tom's gonna second. All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned from the Board of Assessors meeting. With that, we'll call the October 18th Town of Damariscotta Select Board meeting to order. If it pleases the board, we do have one gentleman with two roles this evening, two hats, and he's got someplace else to go. So I may move up a couple of action items if that's all right with everybody. Getting some head nods. Okay, let's move that around. So we have Mr. Roberts over here. Do you want to we might as well present both your things up here. So come on up. So we're going to be looking at, you want to do your festival lights first under citizen comments, or do you want to do the fire barn? Okay, so. John Roberts. So we've been doing the Village of the Light Festival for, I think this is going to be our 7th year. We had a late start of the organization. We just had a initial meeting last week. But we're looking to try to hold the festival in the same manner it's been done in previous years. So that involves about 75 trees on Main Street between Newcastle and Damariscotta, and a parade this Saturday after Thanksgiving. And we have some big trees that we were going to put up, but those are all on private property in Damariscotta. So just looking for the okay to proceed with having trees on downtown. They'll go out the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and then weather dependent, they'll come down a little after the first of the year. Parade as well. The parade will be Saturday after the Saturday. Yeah. So,
And same plan with a snow plowing contractor that they're aware of,
I haven't
Situation.
I haven't talked to them, but I will.
same as in the past years.
Yeah, they've been pretty accommodating as long as we try to. I say around the first of the year, because if there's a big storm coming, we want them to stay up through Christmas, but if there's a big storm coming, then we'll try to rush to get them out before the storm. Within reason, yeah.
Is this organized by the fire department?
No.
Okay, who's, I'm just curious, who's the organizing committee?
We have a Villages of Lake committee.
Okay.
There's been some turnover in it, but we have about 7 or 9 people that are. Might change.
There are about 7 to 9 people that are heavily involved.
Well, you've been in it since the
Yeah,
inception, right?
yeah, and this year we're going to return to the theater, so there'll be a movie playing for the
Oh.
kids
Oh, nice.
and kids crafts at the theater.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be the first time in a while because, well, we had to do outside ones for a while. So
That's a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to that. I think everybody is. So yeah.
Yeah, and does it,
So-
I'm just curious on the funding side, does it come from just volunteers just donating the trees? And the lights?
we sell trees
Okay.
as a sponsorship.
Okay, right.
And then that's where that money is used to buy all the lights, and that's pretty much the only expense we have is the lights and whatnot. So
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
good.
I think you have a head nod from the board.
Okay.
Okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Not
we
gonna take
shut
Christmas
down the
away.
road for about an hour and a half for the parade. But the trees have a impact.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be able to smell them when you're driving through town.
That looks good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
it's so,
Awesome. Thank you, Don.
so cheerful.
Oh, and yeah, if you want to move on, I think you're here with another
Yeah,
hat,
so
right?
I'll
You can put your other hat on and
representing the fire department now. We've had a capital reserve plan for a number of years for the replacement of our SCBA air bottles.
Mhm.
We received a grant. I think there's a memo that probably explains most
yeah,
of it.
this would be in the revised agenda
Mhm.
update and the cover page. There's a cover letter there. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we had received a grant, I think 15 years ago, because air bottles are good for 15 years and then you have to replace them. So 34 of our roughly, I think 40 bottles are set to expire at the end of this calendar year. So we went out and got bids from 2 different suppliers for the manufacturer of our packs with Scott's. We have to get Scott bottles for 30-minute or 45-minute bottles. So that number is used to tell you how much air is in the cylinder. If you're in shape, you can get it to last that long. If you're not, then it goes a lot quicker. So we met as a company and thought that we should go to the 45-minute bottles. There's a few reasons for that. One of them is the new packs have an alarm that goes off and it's set at 33% of your air supply pressure. The old style is 25%. So having the alarm go off quicker when the low air alarm goes off, that's when you exit the building. So we felt going with the 30-minute bottles, it would decrease the amount of time we have in before we have to leave. And there's not a whole lot of extra weight. So that was what we were recommending going with. And then we have one pack that the pass alarm, which is the alarm that goes off when a pack is stationary and doesn't move. There's a personal accountability safety system, I think is what it stands for. So if a pack is, the air pressure's on, this pass alarm is supposed to automatically activate, and it has a timer. And if you don't move for a certain amount of time, it starts beeping. And if you still don't move, then it goes into an alarm. And the idea is to be able to find a downed firefighter from that noise that's being emitted. So the packs are quite old now, and one of the integrated passes failed and is not repairable. So we're asking for the excess that we had on budget to replace that with a new pack. So
Fair enough. And all, yeah, those previous packs were all bought at the same time, right? Through another grant. So we're coming up and around to cycling all through again. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
How long will these be expected to last?
usually when you get to 3 NFPA standards old, they try to encourage you to replace them. So we're quite a bit beyond that now. And the pack frames themselves were actually left. We upgraded the packs before. So the frames are from when we initially purchased these style air packs, which would have been in the 90s somewhere.
And they're still good.
All the other hardware that goes on it was put in this grant, which would have been 15 years ago.
So does it seem likely that these would last for 15 years as well, or is that sort of unrealistic?
Well, FY 27 is when we've slated to start trying to replace the packs with the reserve account. So that's only 3 years
Smaller
away.
increments.
Yeah, what we want to try to do is do a truck at a time,
Okay.
because you have to use a different face. You have to use a newer face piece with the newer packs. So just to try to keep track of stuff, we do a truck at a time per year.
Yeah, that was kind of my other question, because I was looking at the reserves and this kind of uses up most of that reserve. So is the expectation that we start building it again? And is there anything else that you would need a reserve for? Because I noticed that you guys had 2 reserves,
3
We have
fire
3.
truck, fire equipment and
in the building.
in the building.
So we have budgeted $10,000 for the next 3 years towards the fire equipment reserve.
Dan, if you go another page, I put a copy of
Oh, you did?
almost
Okay.
all of your 10 years in there. I
Right.
did it so it fit on one.
Oh, I see.
sheet.
There.
So John puts
That's
this
fine.
together as part of the, annual budget process. He sends it to me. I truncated it this past year, I think, to 5 years or 3 years. But John puts 10-year effort into looking ahead. So they've been really good about putting that foresight in.
Which is helpful when your furnace craps out.
Yeah.
other than that, yeah.
So I guess that's that's our request. I
Yeah.
think we're still coming in about $1,000 under budget. The one piece we don't know, which I think Andy added in about $1,100 allowance for, was the shipping. That was the one piece that wasn't on the quote.
Any other questions for Chief? So we're looking for just an up to a 50,000.
I thought that would cover it, if by
Yeah.
chance it goes over that, it shouldn't be by much, if anything, and that the operating budget can cover the rest of the shipping stuff, but
Okay.
I figured if you did it up to 50, it gives it, whatever doesn't get spent stays in the reserve.
And I see you recommended a waive and bid procedure on, is this?
Where it's
required?
it's a 50,000+, almost
over.
$50,000, right? So it'd be over, your
Yeah.
bid would require a RFP, but
Yeah,
John's
in this
gotten 2
case,
quotes, and really there's limiting number of vendors or suppliers for that particular brand, so it's not wait, and you said that there's like an 8-week, 12-week lead time.
It's not entirely sure.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that we might be reaching out to the Bureau of Labor and requesting guidance for what they want us to do if our bottles are expired by a week or 2.
Given the time constraints in that he did get through project recommended, yeah, you do waive that.
Yeah, I'm definitely go through that. So I'll make a motion, waive the bid procedure and authorize up to 50,000 from the fire equipment reserve for the purchase of SCBA's air pack and supporting components. I have a second.
Yeah, second.
Dan's gonna second. Any discussion? Tom? Oh, okay. All those in favor? All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and Josh. is
I
gonna
am
abstain,
abstaining.
right? All right, fair enough. So. All right, get what you
Thank you.
need.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's need to breathe.
Hey, you've got a few, you can make it in plenty of time now.
Yeah, we get you going. So, all right. Okay, thank you everybody for bearing with us and bouncing around a little bit here. So. We'll get back on track so we can get back through some housekeeping. So now we're going to go back to the select board minutes. So we'll have to do these individually. There's a lot of different ones bouncing around. So we can start with the minutes of September 6th. And I think Tom has started with an amendment on the select board minutes of the 6th, Tom.
Right, section 6, Roman numeral 4. So Tom Anderson commended Andy as a Rotary spear, and I commended Andy for his speech at Rotary.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. Any other amendments to the September 6th minutes? Tom, do you want to take that motion where you've
Yes, I moved it to correct the September 6th, section 6.4 to Tom Anderson commended Andy for his Rotary speech.
okay. Thank you, Tom. I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, let's carry. All right, so that leaves us with the 14th was the meeting at Round Top. Any questions, comments on that from anybody? Any amendments?
No, that looked good.
Okay, yep. Did I hear you
I read it.
motioning? Okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept
okay, yep.
the select board meeting at Round Top.
For the September 14th, all right. Do we have a second? Who wants to take that one? Dan's gonna second. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, we'll move, and Josh, you're abstaining, right?
Abstaining, I was not there.
Yep, no problem. Then we'll move on. So we had the minutes of the September 16th, which was our the cemetery get together, right?
Mhm.
Yes, trying to remember. We had a bunch of stuff going on. Yes, it was. So any changes or amendments to the minutes from the 16th? The ones that Andy wrote up, so we can blame him if they're wrong. So, all right, not you, Linda. It's Andy's turn. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th.
One second.
And Andrea seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, there we go.
I was not
Josh
there.
abstaining.
I was not there.
Josh, you were all last month.
I was there sometimes.
And then we have the minutes of September 20th.
I
I make a motion to correct the minutes of September 20th under members. Again, it says Tom Andrews, it should be Tom Anderson.
Mhm.
And also on section 5 under minutes, it says correction noted by Tom Andrews. It should be correction noted by Tom Anderson.
Okay. You can change your name, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens, but anyway.
Oh.
And I don't,
Called a lot of things. So
and I don't believe I
All
was
right.
there that day
Tom
either.
has a motion out. I'll second his motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. That one carries. Josh, did you?
No, I wasn't even there, and I think it says I was there.
Wait, I think you were.
Was that the one I wasn't there?
No, we had the short
No,
one.
you were, oh, yeah.
Oh, it wasn't that one.
There.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
You weren't there?
I don't think so. 4-0. 3-0. No, that was the day I thought I would do phone in, but the game went too long.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
No, you should be absent.
So
just
Josh should be
4
shown.
and
I
then
should
Josh-
shown
Josh
shown
abstains.
absent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh
All
Well,
right.
two people were there that weren't there, Tom Andrews and Josh Pinkham.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
All right.
So the vote is 3-0.
3-0. Yeah, we're still up.
On
On the 20th.
September
September
20th.
20th, yeah.
It was just the three of
Three of
us.
us, yeah.
Okay.
You know. All right, we'll move on here. So we can move on to payroll warrants. I think everybody's had a chance to see, except for Tom, I believe, we have payroll warrant,
That was 17.
17. Yeah.
I'll move payroll warrant 17.
Thank you,
Again,
John.
is it around 38,000?
Yeah, it's,
Might
30.
be a little more.
This is 40. 436609.
All right, well,
Sorry, 44,661.60.
Because of the
right.
payroll.
Yeah.
Pumpkin Fest.
Yeah.
I'll abstain then.
No, all right. Do I have a,
Second.
you moved, do I hear a second?
Second.
Andrea seconds, any discussion? Right, all those in favor? Okay, 3-4, and Tom's gonna abstain. And then we have accounts payable number 18.
I'll move accounts payable 18.
Okay. Andrea seconds, any discussion?
Yeah, I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
A car named Dujardin, and there was like $19,000. Is that related to that?
The
um,
CDBG.
Grant?
Yeah.
Yep.
And is that the whole payment of it?
Nope.
That's the first tranche or first request. The full grant amount was up to $60,000.
Yeah, I thought-
So that's the first one.
All right, all those in favor? All right,
Abstain.
Tom's gonna abstain, okay. All right, that's good, so let's, I'm trying to look at the revised agenda here, make sure I don't get many here, so. All right, Andy, did you want to touch base on I think we all got the memo on the 250th anniversary of the US Planning Commission.
Mhm.
Pretty straightforward, but was it like 15 people on the commission?
So the email came in from Maine Municipal Association stating that Governor Mills is requesting names of municipal officials interested in serving on the commission to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. 15-member commission is directed to coordinate the celebratory commemorative educational programs, historical events, and activities. So MMA is putting a call out to see if any municipal officials or staff members are interested in serving on such a committee. Just thought I'd share that with you if that was of interest to anybody.
Want to sneak anybody's name in where they're not looking or?
John
Yeah.
Roberts.
Should we?
Geez, is another something else he needs to do or?
Put him on.
Yeah. We better not. It's statewide and they're looking, what, 15 positions, so there's a good chance there would be.
And actually, most of
there'll be
them are
a fill it.
allocated already. There's only like one allocated to the towns.
To say there's.
Yeah,
I'm
if
sure.
did you read it?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see that as a really.
Yeah, you have to click on the thing and then.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so,
Um,
yeah. So I think they fill it out pretty quickly for that. So great. Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw something out there out of turn here while we're talking about putting people on something. So we are still looking for a public Damariscotta health officer.
Yes.
So I'm
Oh,
putting,
yes, sir.
I'm advertising it out there. I am currently the interim health officer. I'm not qualified for that, because I'll just tell you to walk it off. So putting this out there, maybe in the paper, if we have a Damariscotta resident physician that might want to volunteer for that.
Do we have it? in?
Yes.
No, it's
We
just,
just-
it just.
we're rolling it out
my
right
radar
now.
to do it in the last few weeks. but-
Okay.
Yeah, it was just what, if there's, a health emergency, I'm not gonna be the one you want to come to. So just throwing that out there. So, all
How about
right.
Jason Warlick?
Yeah, he's got a lot on his plate, but we can always ask him. Andy, you want to dive into your report?
I can.
Why not?
Providing kind of a first look at summarizing the first quarter and where you are and some of the projects and goals you're hoping to accomplish this year. Just to highlight a few things, the provider agency policy is in front of you tonight for a second review. So that's on track from what we were hoping it would be. The road inventory is complete. I have not done the sidewalk one. I think I can, because they're all asphalt, I can just use the same program for that. So I haven't done the sidewalk piece, but the road part has been put in the program. Michael, our planner, is working with the partners on that climate resiliency partnership. So we're in progress working towards that waterfront project. It's long overdue to get done. The engineers are working towards the final drafts of those plans so that we can get an RFP out in November is what the tentative plan is at this point. So some of that will rely on EDA coming back within that month so we can get it out, but that's on track. We're going to have a small stakeholder meeting with some key property owners next week, just to have a little bit of input to the RFP draft regarding laydown area and parking concerns. We'll have another series of other stakeholder, bigger groups as we understand more fully what that RFP looks like and get responses and know what the timeline is being committed to. So there'll be more on that as that develops. And then a little behind or not started yet includes drafting the capital improvement plan. Now that the road inventory is done, need to get together with Public Works Committee, talk through a little bit of what they're thinking of recommending for a timeline on some of those road projects. It's a big ticket item to go through and look at all the roads. And then I want to try and get something put together kind of for the budget process, so you can look at that as part of allocating funds for reserves or consideration for bond funding if you need to consider that. So working on that. TIF amendments are in progress, and so that'll come to the board. It's a little behind from what I was hoping we would have, but we'll get that to you with the goal of trying to get something approved before the next tax year starts, which is April 1st. Traffic and parking ordinance, we have not haven't had a chance to meet and pull Jason and the parking enforcement person that we had this summer in to deal with that. So we have that has fallen off. Energy storage regulations is something that the fire chiefs in Newcastle and Damariscotta had met with me and their former town manager about, to talk about some concerns that they're seeing at their fire training, particularly around those lithium ion batteries and the combustibility of those, the concern for the off-gassing and just not knowing where some of those are. And the conversation went a little bit wider to, well, should we look at other types of stored energy that might be in homes, just to understand, so when a fire department or emergency response is there, they know to be aware that on this property or in this building. And then there's a consideration for, trying to say we'd like to see them not in the residence, but maybe in a detached structure, just to try and be safer about it. The timeline, once those batteries, Josh knows better than I, but once those batteries kind of burn and they off gas, that gas is pretty toxic.
Yeah.
My understanding is, and it burns really hot, but my understanding is the gas usually will, I believe, kill someone before they burn. And so it's seconds. So it's a new thing for us, for the fire departments to
It would be
train
like
on.
those Google walls where they like store battery storage, make large scale battery storage. in the
Even
house.
a single, I don't know if anyone's doing that around here yet, but that would be a concern. But even a single car, has the potential to be,
So if you
a
have
lot of batteries in a single car.
looking at a solar array with multiple storage batteries in your
Right.
basement, something like
Right,
that.
right,
That's a
right.
concern with
Yeah,
it.
they,
Yeah, stored inside the home, and yeah.
So we're just trying to, from a fire safety perspective, understand like what can we do to be more aware of where these are. And so that's a little behind. We started that conversation, I think, this spring, and they had a transition to manager over in Newcastle, and summer happened. So we'll try and pick that up again. The housing report from Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission scheduled now for October 30th. I think tentatively had hoped we'd do that earlier in October or late September. It's a little behind. And then one of the goals was to create a housing advisory group. I'm assuming we want to wait till, at the very least, wait till we get through this joint meeting with the select board, with both boards, get through this. It's a big thing in the comprehensive plan. So I think deciding whether you do it before or after the comprehensive plan process, and it's a little more clear what the strategies could be. You can talk about.
it's probably a good time to remind people that next Wednesday here, we're having a comprehensive plan community forum all related to housing, so that if you're around and have the time, 6 o'clock here to talk about, the whole meeting will be dedicated to housing.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there'll be a presentation and then a discussion amongst both. So,
Yeah, it would make sense once the comp plan is done and finished out to get these committees formed and build off of that. But yeah, okay.
Great.
Sorry.
PSAC bike resolution, that's on your agenda for discussion. Just putting it in there so you'd hear it again. And then upcoming meetings, Dan mentioned the meeting next week for the housing. November 9th is the third of the three series of comprehensive plan workshops, and that one will be around active living, bike and pedestrian infrastructure and recreation. And that one will be at Coastal Rivers up on Main Street. Other than that, again, then the joint meeting with Newcastle's board on the 30th at 6 p.m. at the Newcastle Fire Station. And then potentially on the 15th of November, I'm proposing maybe a joint workshop with the budget committee. Just because it's around the corner, and consideration for any parameters or things you want the staff to think about or me to think about in preparing that, whether there's, a target for a percent increase or decrease, or just to help us going before we go into it and put all that effort in and then try and scurry at the end. So I did have a meeting with them last week.
I'd like to add that on November 21st at 6 p.m. the select board is invited to the aquaculture meeting at Coastal Rivers.
It's at Coastal Rivers. What time, Tom?
6th.
6?
Yep.
So-
Although I'm seeking volunteers to help me set up, if anybody wants to come a little early.
So we'll need to know, if there's gonna be a quorum or not, so we can get it advertised, so. We'll do a straw poll there. We get a little closer and see who's available.
I can help, Tom, if you want
So.
with
okay.
setup.
All right, great.
Hmm.
This is tables and chairs.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. All right, that's it for dates there. Okay, thank you, Andy. Any questions or comments on the report? We're good. All right, well, we can,
So when we do the budget committee, do we do it? We don't start earlier? We just incorporate it into our select board meeting?
Up for discussion if you'd like to or not. I don't intend it to be terribly long. But if sometimes we have done that, started a little bit earlier. Like at 5 o'clock.
yeah, we've done like
the
the 5 o'clock.
And that's if the board would like to do that, I can certainly do that.
I'm fine with 5:30.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be a short one, I mean,
It's tentative. I haven't even reached out to them to
okay.
try and schedule it with them yet
This
either.
first one is gonna be, shorter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
okay.
looking for some parameters, cover, how do you want the vote to be? Is it gonna be, like it was last year, a few of the articles only on the ballot
Right.
on Tuesday and the majority and the rest of them, the budget stuff on Wednesday on the open floor. And I think clarifying that just so we're aware, because that'll change our timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
A
get the
couple
warrants
weeks.
out. Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough, fair enough. Oh, all right. Well, we can move along here. So we do have a sidewalk reserve donation. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Andy?
Me too.
Yeah.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Yes.
Someone had shepherded a donation of $50,000 to the town for sidewalk projects. So I'm recommending the board accept the donation and appropriate that to the sidewalk reserve. And if, once that's done, I'll be able to follow up with them and
It's in the revised one.
thank them for that generous donation.
I'll make a motion to approve to accept the $50,000 sidewalks improvement donation. And appropriate that to the sidewalk reserve.
I'll
And
second.
let's make, Josh is gonna second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, I guess all 5 of us. And please, reach out on behalf of everybody. Now, that's a very generous donation
And
and
it was just general, it wasn't targeted to certain sidewalks.
The the memo said sidewalk projects.
Okay.
So, our big one right now that we are looking for the full funding for is Church Street.
Right.
Still at Church Street,
Yeah.
Hodgson Street, and we partnered with the Land Trust, Coastal Rivers on that trail project. They haven't put that one grant in.
Yep.
So if that doesn't come through, we're still looking for about $1 million, I figured, for our share of what we need to finish.
Okay.
it's a very generous
For
donation.
Church
Any,
Street. And
Yeah, it's
do we
Church and
have
Hodgkin.
anything yet promised?
We have bond money left from the Belvedere Egypt Road, about 750,000, I believe, maybe 800. Still finalizing those change orders. And then the donations that have come in previously is about $200,000 at this point, because we've
Okay.
spent some on engineering.
So we do have some.
So we're just under $1 million ourselves right now. Looking for about 700 to $1 million more. Some of that'll depend on, we just need the bids to come back, but we're estimating about 1.7 for our
For the total,
Church Street and Hodgson Street project.
okay.
Little bit of a gap there, but we'll get there.
Yep.
Find the money somewhere. right?
I mean, the nice thing is if we can find suitable grants and get a grant of a sizable amount at a shared cost share,
Yeah.
we'll be able to stretch that bond money further than we were thinking.
Mhm.
So that'll be nice if we can find that.
Awesome. Do we want to discuss the updates to the provider agency policy at this point? This is the second draft, is it, Andy? First draft of the revisions.
Yeah, so I'd proposed 3 options at a previous meeting. Coming out of that, my understanding was that the board was preferred to see all provider agencies submit a petition and get the communities and show community support through that process. Be about 120 or so signatures they'd have to get to be able to get it on the ballot.
So they would need to do this every year.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I took that, modified the policy based on that recommendation and took that and shared that to the budget committee. Just to get their feedback. There was a little in the memo here, kind of tried to lay out where they stood with it. There was a little bit of pause or concern for having every year, every nonprofit or provider agency come through with a petition process. They would like to see maybe instead of picking certain ones over others who don't have to, see if there was another way that it could come in as a request similar to like the departments.
So what would that actually look like? So let's just pick any one of them, like the Historical Society. Would they just write a letter and?
That was the thought, a letter, the items that are in the policy is drafted as recommended to provide. When you come with the petition and have the 10% and meet the statutory requirement, we can't put those additional requirements on to provide that information. We can ask for it.
Yeah.
And the policy currently requires they submit those things. And so you could do it another way, which, submit by and give them a date to submit it by, must provide these items. And then it would go through presumably the board's review, and then the budget committee's review.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that agency provider question and I think the budget committee's questions or concerns they seemed reasonable in terms of, having each one of them have to do this 110%, then really then we would have to put it on. That would be the statutory requirement, right?
Right.
So one thought would be is that existing providers, maybe it's a much lower number of signatures every year, just to show that there still is community support. I was just thinking like to run for an office in this town, you need like 25 signatures.
Right.
So that seemed like a reasonable amount to show that that there's still people out there interested and then it doesn't like lock us into some statutory requirement as well. And then for any new agency that would like to apply for grants or monies from the town, maybe they have to get the 10% of the prior gubernatorial election, just to show that there is broad support for whatever their cause is or their agency. It's just a thought.
Right.
And then I know there was some special concern about 2 agencies, the library Scadomfa and then the LCTV. And it almost seems like I don't know if, I know you want a simple policy, but it almost seems like they're in a separate category by themselves. And I don't even know how to treat them as almost like exempt organizations or something different. So, and I know it confuses everything a little bit, but if you required everyone to have like 25, just a minimal level of support as a thought, and then they have to provide that there's financial need too. Because there might be an agency that, just has been getting it and they really don't need it, but they just like getting it. And there might be another agency if there's limited funds where the money would be better spent. So some sort of financial need requirement as well. And I know that when you read through it, there's some sense that you can require financials for folks, and just having people provide a simple, expense and revenue account every year, like, doesn't seem unreasonable either.
And most of them do provide that even.
But that seems reasonable, just like 25 signatures, some sort of revenue and expense item. And then, and then perhaps, how they serve the community of Damariscotta as well.
Right.
And I know that those are sort of in here in pieces. And I know that sort of changes the piece a bit, but it just sort of is in the spirit of some of the questions that the
Right.
budget committee was raising as well.
So the recommendation from MMA is they're pleased to see we have a policy.
Right.
And trying to make it so it's consistent and easy, easy to follow. One of the things they did recommend, however, is either use the petition process or don't. Do not recommend saying use a petition and choose a different number than what the state statute is. Try and keep that intact if you want to do the petition.
Okay.
If you want a different approach or policy to have people submit the request, fine. But maybe not through a lower petition number.
Yeah, I think it would, and I understand what you're saying. I think it would you start getting a little messy, determining, who and how long they've been an agency and where you cut that line off. The idea behind, and I think going back to when this was amended years ago, and Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were around then, been around forever. The idea behind the petition process and having a percentage or a larger amount, excuse me, is a gauge to make sure there is ongoing support and support still there. So that support can wane over the years too. So there might be there may be a provider agency that's been, grandfathered in, but there may be waning support in the general public for it. So that's kind of where, on the board level, we kind of have to gauge that somehow of what's the support out there. And if they're getting these signatures over and over again and everybody, okay, that kind of guides the role there.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of simplifying it and getting it down to like it's standard across the board and everybody does. This is the process they go through. I saw the questions about Scadomfa and, kind of separating those out, but I don't know how you separate them out, without, you start changing definitions and whatnot. So they essentially have the same basis that the other provider agencies to keep things fair.
There's no other category to put them under.
You can define it. You can make a definition for another, right? And then you start getting into layered definitions, and that's when it starts getting, you start getting muddy and gray areas. So, but that's just my thoughts on it anyway. So
at the end of the day, these are not organizations of the town of Damariscotta.
right,
So, we shouldn't decide. It should be for them to get the signatures that are necessary, and the people of Damariscotta, the voters of Damariscotta decide. They're not within our operating budget. This is an add-on. So if they want to do what they need to do to take the necessary steps to get the money from the town of Damariscotta, that's the policy.
How about a sort of a compromise, like some of the smaller ones that are getting like $1,500 a year, maybe unless the number changes or the term, let's say that after 3 years, they have to get the petition, whether the number changes or not. Because that seems to be, for somebody that's asking for that kind of money, an awful lot to ask. But at larger amounts, I think they ought to get the petition every year.
well, then we got getting into definitions and drawing lines in places. I mean, it's honestly getting a petition for 10% of the voter signatures. They've done it. I mean, I don't see why it's not a lot to ask. And it's also, it gauges public opinion. The board doesn't have any, we need the public to tell us, where we go with this stuff. And unless you get a larger cross section of that support, it makes it very hard.
What is 10% of the
About 120 signatures.
It's roughly
126?
some signatures.
It'll
Okay.
fluctuate here and there. I think it was
Yeah.
120 something.
But just let me, so if they get the 10%, then it's required to go on the warrant.
Mhm.
And people will vote it up or down.
Right.
And then the budget committee and then the select board really don't have any say in the matter then if they read that 10%.
Because it's not part of our operating budget. So we shouldn't have
But
any.
it comes
say.
out of the mill rate though.
Right, but it's not what
yes.
we're elected to do. We're not in charge of this. This is, when we did the policy, it was, it's not part of the town of Damariscotta. It's if they want a petition to do it, to earn the money to do it and take the time, then you got to do a little bit of work.
Yeah.
And it's not part of our job to sit up here and say, oh, we're gonna give it to this organization, what, we're not gonna give it to them, or we're gonna let them do it because they've been here forever. This is a cut and dry. They need to work and get the system down and do it every year. And every time they do it, they always get the money. So
There's two checkpoints as well. There's the petition process and then there's the vote on the floor.
right,
So there's two spots there where the voting citizens of Damariscotta have full control over that amount. You know, they have to petition for it. And then when we go to town meeting, it has to be voted in. And that's a chance if the, I mean, the scary part is, yeah, the number could be anything.
It could be a
Right.
huge number.
It could be.
If many
It could
groups.
be, yeah. But again, then it's out on the floor. And if somebody's asking for an exorbitant amount, well, the hope would be that if the town of Damariscotta, if all the voting citizens, say, hey, we want to give this agency $100,000. Okay, but we're gonna pay for it, the mill rate's going up.
And it does come out of our budget.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have to pay for it. So, but it's
not our operating
but it's
budget.
not operating budget.
This is an extra add-on that the townspeople of Damariscotta either say, yes, we're going to oblige and support you, or they say no, but it's not part of our oversight of the budget.
It's not a department.
Yeah. And up to this point in time, we really haven't been consistent, right? In terms of how we've applied. our
used to be.
policy.
We used to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then things, makeups of board changes and things change and people look the other way and here we are again, so.
But this is how it's supposed to be. This is the policy.
When we're creating. a
This is the
policy.
revision, and this is the first draft of the revision of the policy, so.
Oh, the second draft.
Second draft, yeah. So, dates on the, when do we looking to, what do you need for timeline? So.
Hoping sooner rather than later.
Gotcha.
So I mean,
Yeah, okay.
if a lot of, sometimes my understanding, right, is the nonprofits, if they, or the provider agencies, if they're going to be getting the signatures, one of the sure ways to know it's someone that you're looking to get their signature as a Damariscotta resident voter. Is you stand out here on election day, on the exit door.
Yeah.
And so they'll bring tents and tables and the weather's good, they'll be out there and people usually rotate shifts. But everyone leaving that door is a registered voter here, so they're
Right.
capable or eligible to sign. Others, if they have a building and people are coming and going, they'll put them in their building. Some people have done something different. But that's a sure way to get at least that number of people walking out the door in one day.
Yeah, yeah.
So if that was the case, it wouldn't hurt to try and get something, so you have one more meeting before the election.
Yeah.
It's a little tight turnaround for some of the organizations if they're trying to, do I do it, don't I do it? As it stands right now, I believe it reads that they'd be expected to get a petition anyways.
Right.
And so it's just for a couple of them perhaps that haven't had to, that it might change for.
Yeah.
The new.
Well, and
one.
they're supposed to be anyway, right? Yeah.
I mean, without an agreement or a contract or a partnership in writing, that would, right, that would be the only other way to have some of those other groups do it, for the providing a service for us, and we find that mutually beneficial. We want to enter some sort of contract with them. That would be a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a whole different makeup.
But otherwise, it's a separate entity that would fall under as it's written like this.
And that would, so whether it's Coastal Kids wanting 2,000 or Scanumfa wanting 33,000, they would all have the same requirements.
As I understood from the last meeting, that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea of keeping
Doesn't
it
seem-
consistent and say you get the signatures and.
Yeah.
And do what you have to do, and then it goes to the floor at the town meeting and the voting public decides yea or nay at that point, so.
And there is a wide range of how certain, how towns do handle these. I mean,
Yeah.
some just don't.
Yeah.
We aren't considering it. Some have, might utilize a process like this. Some treat it like a department request and say, submit it by this time and we'll review it. I mean, it really is kind of all over the place.
And then some other towns we talked about years ago that when you pay your property taxes, if you check a box, you want to donate $20 to whatever
right.
organization, and it will funnel through the town.
Yeah.
We talked about that years ago too.
But we never did it.
No, because no one wanted to do it,
Right, yeah. Gotcha, yeah,
but it was talked about.
all right.
So if you want more time, that's fine. And if you feel you're ready, you can do it now too. But either way, Either way is fine.
So to make sure that I understand exactly what we're talking about here, can you give me like the 30-second understanding of what the policy is so that clear to me?
Sure.
It's
So we created a definition for provider agency, so that was clear. That was one of the things that we had feedback on and request for. The requirement for a submission for funding would be every provider agency would have to go through the same process. It would require a petition pursuant to 30-A MRS 2522,
Okay.
which outlines us to 10% of those signatures. We'd have to have the time for the clerk's office to verify those signatures. The sooner they get it in, the sooner they can look at it. And if they
That's
find they
the
don't have enough signatures, they can still have time maybe to get another one in.
That's the third Friday in March, and that's the deadline.
That's the deadline. Third Friday in March gives us the opportunity to, review the signatures, get it into the budget tables there, because I assume it's something you want to see, just like with the schools, asking
Yeah.
for, again, we can't require them to come, but asking and stating that there would be a public hearing of
Okay.
those provider agencies to come into and to share with the community the request, how much they're asking for. They'd be expected, although not required, to list out the description of their agency and the types of services they provide to our residents, the document detailing the services provided to those residents in the most recent fiscal year and the value of the services, the amount of the request, and then kind of an expense and revenue report to get to the point of
Okay.
standing and in need. So those are the things we would ask them to share at the public hearing. They don't come, that again, you can't require them to be there, but
Yeah.
trying to make that the first meeting in April when you would consider your draft warrant articles. And then,
Yeah.
because that would be included in the warrant, that would give us to 2 weeks to get the warrant revised and in front for a final approval. Did have in there, need a little interpretation probably from MMA to make sure. One of the things we'd put in there, that the requests that have been submitted by the third Friday in March and have met the requirements of the policy would be included in the annual town meeting warrant, but petitions received after the third Friday in March will be included in the following year's annual town warrant. So there is a requirement if you do get a petition that you need to put it on kind of like the next town meeting. You have your annual one, you can do special ones. So there's,
But once you have your annual town meeting, that's when your budget is approved, and
Right.
that's what we operate off of for
Right.
setting the mill rate.
right. And so I think because of that tax impact, I think that's one of the ones I kind of want to ask them about, because it's not as big of a deal. If you have a question about, considering taking over a road, for example, on its surface, it's okay. Or if you had a special town meeting to consider something without a financial impact, it's not as big. But if you need to levy taxes outside of that annual process, now you're talking about a supplemental tax bill. And so could we, in our policy, say it'll be the next annual town meeting warrant, by way of policy would be okay. So that's one thing I do kind of want to get feedback on, make sure it's okay to have that way.
All right. So, I'm happy with the amendments, as this draft as written. Never to get there, I'll throw a motion out there and we'll see what happens. So I'll make a motion to approve the provider agency policy as presented this evening, barring you're checking on the date or the town meeting date with MMA, right? That's, you just said, it depends on that.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Second,
That one piece.
Okay, that was a rambling motion, but I think you got the point. Tom seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, yeah, that was okay. All right. Well, good. Yeah, that's just keeping things consistent. So I think it'll work. It's really building off what was there before, say it kind of get a little out of control. So, all right. And what do we have left? We have, so this is the abatement, Andy, that one.
Yeah, you didn't approve necessarily that Nestle one. They had one for this year, I believe, and then one for last year's. We talked about last year's
Yeah,
earlier. But because it's outside that 185 days, it's in being that it would be our error.
Right, this is the
in
one
not
with the-
applying those
Yeah.
reductions in
Right.
value.
Okay.
The select board has to approve that one particular.
That's right.
Abatement from 2023.
all right. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the personal property tax abatement for, let's see, PP 914 reference 2023-10 due to an error.
I'll second.
Thank you, Josh. Any discussion? Those in favor? Okay, it's all of us and Tom as well, all five. All right. So that being said, I think we have some folks who have been waiting patiently in the back of the room there.
Mhm.
So we're gonna move on to PSAC committee and yeah, come on up and we'll make you introduce yourself anyway. Thank you for waiting. I will state before we get started, we put you on hold at our last meeting. I appreciate your patience. We had a short meeting and thank you guys for coming back and waiting.
No
All right,
problem.
yeah.
We appreciate being here. Thanks so much. My name's Mary Ann Moisen, and I am a resident of Damariscotta. I'm here representing the Public Safety and Accessibility Collaborative. So we are presenting a resolution for bicycle safety and accessibility that we would like the select board to review and approve. And I know you have a copy of that in front of you. So the resolution is based on a bicycle survey that we did here in Damariscotta in 2021. And also multiple reports and survey data dating back to 2008. And those are sort of outlined in the resolution as all the whereas parts. We created this resolution in collaboration with the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission and with input from Andy Dorr and Michael Martone, our planner. So the history here is that there has been a lot of support and really diligent efforts to improve the pedestrian safety and accessibility in town, but really little action towards implementing biking recommendations that are in these documents listed here in the resolution. So basically, our committee came up with three sort of major recommendations and a few other points that we included in the resolution that we're asking the board and the town to consider these issues when road projects come up, changes in upgrading infrastructure around town. So the three main recommendations are considering paved shoulders, particularly on Bristol Road, on Business Route 1 north of McDonald's, and on Biskey Road. And part of that would also include setting aside some funds in a capital improvement plan to help complete these projects, because that seems to be a sticking point in the past, is the cost of paving out shoulders. We're seeking support for PSAC and the community efforts towards a bike rack initiative so we can get consistent, colorful bike racks in town to help promote more bike riding and to show our residents and visitors that we're a bike-friendly community. And we're seeking support and planning for constructing off-road routes for family or all ages cycling around town. So part of this checklist also, part of this resolution is a checklist that can help, that Andy actually said he would fill out when these projects come up, to just make sure it gives us a way to sort of operationalize what it means to consider these items, right? It gives us something to check off and say, yeah, we thought about that. and we're going to try to act on it, or we thought about that, but here are the barriers that are getting in the way. So we have some record and there's accountability both for the select board, the town, and also for community members and our committee to say, here's, the town did their due diligence looking at these issues. Yeah, so happy to answer any other questions about that.
Folks have done a lot of work.
We have.
And an active group. Oh, that's impressive. Oh, there's,
And I
yeah.
can tell you anecdotally, for what it's worth, that whenever I hear people talking about biking around town, the number one thing they say is, we need to pave the shoulders on Bristol Road.
yeah.
And part of it is really that we have that direct comparison because they're paved starting at the Bristol town line. So we see what it can look
Oh,
like.
it does. It changes right
It
there.
changes
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
And it
Yes.
started with a state owned right away. It makes
Yes.
it,
Yes,
Oh,
I
we tried, though.
understand.
we tried.
Yes.
Yeah, they
We
tried.
Yeah.
tried, the last time they paved it, they were supposed to put reclaimed asphalt shoulders on that we were gonna
Mhm.
pay extra as a town. And
And I think-
they came in and did a horrendous job and we
Mhm.
never saw a bill. So
Oh,
that's,
Yeah.
we tried at that point to
right, yeah.
Frustrating
at
when
least
you,
try to do that because we
Yeah.
didn't have the necessary funds, but
Mhm.
they
they do
they
their
didn't
own,
they didn't do what they said they were gonna
do their own thing sometimes. So it's yeah, it can make it difficult, There's,
So have you guys looked at any like other additional funding sources that, could supplement some of the cost as well as just
Well,
town putting it in the capital improvement?
we pretty regularly work closely with the town manager and also with Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission to see if there are grant opportunities or other funding sources available, and the state, of course, because as you said, the state is involved in a lot of these projects. That's what we're trying to do. And I think some of this also is really building awareness so that we, as a town, as a board, as a, government, that we continue to look for those kinds of options too, because there is a big push and there's money on different state and federal levels to help improve this kind of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. So I think if we continue to be forward thinking and be positive about this and look for those opportunities and plan ahead. And I think that's the other big piece too, is because we all know that timeline for the state is pushes out several years so that we're ready when the time comes and they say, okay, we're gonna make improvements on Bristol Road, and we'll say, okay, we're ready and we're asking for you to consider this.
well, it definitely helps to have a very active citizens group, like you folks that are also looking at the grant opportunity, like Josh's question. It's hard to sometimes in the town office, these guys, Andy and the crew are pulled 9 different directions, but it's nice to know, if you guys are active as well and everybody's looking for those opportunities, you have a lot more eyes out there and a lot more opportunities to, because say there is some money out there, but sometimes it's got to be coupled with a public project and, get private money in. So that's an important partnership. So that's good. How many in the group now?
Active members? What would you say, Anton? At least
About 10.
10. That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
10 to 12.
Yeah. That was looking for more or all the time? Or, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're open.
saying that.
I was putting a little plug in for you, Anton. Yeah. So
Right. I
they're
mean, we
looking
have
for more active members.
really good representation too. We have people from our community organizations and from our businesses, local businesses that sit on our committee as well.
Who should, if somebody's looking to volunteer, who should they reach out for? I'm advertising for you to the paper. So
Yeah, that's,
Contact the town manager and you're willing to get the information to us.
Yeah. So, all right, there we go. So, yeah. Anybody have any other questions or Tom, anything on the,
Well, a couple of things, maybe it's because of parochial interest, but Bristol Road seems to be the one that needs the most attention in the short term. It's really dangerous. I mean, I see, there's people trying to ride a bike on that road and people going by at 45 miles an hour. And the edges of the road slope off, so if they're not careful, they're going to fall over if they get off the road with the bike. But all of these things are going to require some money. So I think the checklist is fantastic. I almost would suggest that there might be a line there to try to get a rough estimate to do something. If we're looking at a road, for example, it needs some attention, and Andy goes through this checklist, and it's obvious that it needs, if undesirable to have bike lanes or whatever, what would the cost be? Because if we're going to do something, we're going to have to come back and figure out how to pay for it. So that's not in that checklist, but all these things, to be realistic, to really try to make some progress, we have to have some idea what the impact is to do anything. So I would add that, and I think it's a little premature right now to suggest that the town take action on all new roads in the way it's worded. I think if the funds are available, we could consider doing it, but I don't think we can make it an active statement that we're going to do it if it's needed.
Why
Yeah.
can't we put it in the budget?
Well, we can, but I mean, when you're depending on how it's going to be funded, we might have to go to the public hearing to get it approved. But again, I think the checklist to determine what would be required and the rough estimate should come back, to the select board and decide how to handle it.
So the
what
idea,
would-
the idea with the checklist is that we have a road project and that the checklist would be utilized to say, did we consider bike infrastructure? That typically, in my mind, that early on in the process, we haven't gotten an estimate for the total project yet. But before we do any preliminary engineering and cost estimating, we would determine if we'd be asking the engineers to consider the bike infrastructure, because there'll be a little more cost in even doing that aspect of it. But if the challenges don't exist and we have the width, we have the right of way, it's something that says, hey, it's from a design and looking at that checklist, hey, we think we should tell the engineer, would you please design it with bike infrastructure? And then give us two prices, one with it, one without it.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Beyond, is a part of a conceptual or preliminary design phase.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, going into that design, yeah, makes sense. You're looking at like a bid alternative.
And I can
Um,
share on Bristol Road if you'd like, just because it came up, or I can.
Well, I was gonna, you go ahead.
So the state's planning to do LCP next year. Earlier, if it was the spring or summer, I had reached out and asked after one of the meetings if it could be a consideration. They're coming up with a new program to actually pay the shoulders when they do LCP and not just do the travel lanes, which was great to hear.
Okay.
The challenge they have with Bristol Road and is not going to be considered next year for paved shoulders is because it's considered unimproved, I believe, shoulders. And so the right of way is assumed and not owned by DOT. And so they'd have to go through the process of right of way acquisition and surveys and go through that process, which at least in their timelines they assume 12 months. And knowing the LCP is scheduled to be done next year, they don't have the money or the time to be able to do that road next year for paved shoulders. So it's not that it can't happen. It's just unfortunately we're going to miss it for this round of LCP. But it is at the very least something that they're incorporating now in their LCP program.
So Bristol Road, how frequently does one repave it?
The LCP
LCP.
The LCP program, I believe, is about a 7-year cycle.
5, 7.
When they do it, it would be better if they did a little bit thicker and if they waited 7 years. I mean, you'll see Biskie and School Street they did last year. And you'll notice, I think on School Street, you can see quite a bit of cracks already. It's a pretty thin layer. It's a sand mixture rather than a stone mixture, so it breaks down a little faster. And so it's okay for a shim if you're going to put a thicker overlay, or you should put a thicker overlay. So it is what it is. What they're putting on there is supposed to be used in a treatment to try and keep water from penetrating your road surface and getting into the base. And so when they wait that long, it doesn't work as well as it should. So yeah, that they might shortchange themselves, have to come back a little bit quicker on that second time around, but so yeah, unfortunately, this next year, it sounds like it won't be considered,
Right,
but
but-
they're aware of it, and I think being able to show the interest, and I don't know if you want to do it in between LCP, then the town would probably have to do a partnership with the state and pay for roughly 50% of it, depending on where that total amount's going to be.
Yeah.
So is PSAC considered approaching the property owners to see if they'd be, acceptable to changing their right of way for the sake of sidewalks and lanes?
Well, the PSAC is not going to be doing that. We're just a group of community members. So I think that would probably be part of a project once it gets underway, correct? Is my understanding.
Well, I was just trying to see if there was any, just community support for it. It wouldn't be official, but to see how much opposition there might be.
Yeah, there's some pretty challenging parcels down
Mhm.
that stretch of road, and the proximity of the building to the road's edge. And I don't know what the state would require for a right of way if they're going to acquire it to do that. But
I do know, I don't have anything else to say about that process because I'm not really sure, but getting back to what Andy was saying about the priority for paving shoulders, there is part of the Maine DOT's 10-year plan is having a priority of highway corridor, HCP, highway corridor priority levels 2 and 3 roads to consider paving shoulders on those. So the state is thinking about it as well because they see it as a valuable thing to do, not just for bicycles, but to keep the cars safe, pedestrians safer. And also without the crumbly shoulders on our edges of the road, you would think the road surface would last longer too in the long run. It's just that initial build out is quite costly, time consuming. But if we can plan ahead and if it's not going to happen this time, it's not going to happen, but we're thinking about it now, right? We're talking about it and we can move forward.
Oh,
at the very least, I
Yeah.
assume they'll
That's what-
take care of that transition off the edge. Work.
Yes.
So I
Yeah,
know they did a little bit of patchwork, but there's still some considerable drops. And so I'm assuming that they'll at least do the shouldering next year after the
On Biscayne, on Bristol Road, sorry. Yeah.
they did
Yeah.
that,
Smooth that
following
out.
on School Street and Biskie Road. They usually do some shouldering work
Yeah,
after, but it's not a hard surface.
I even tell them they hosed us the last time, they should put reclaim asphalt down and do it the right way.
Can ask
and
if they
at
will.
their cost.
At the very least, it'd be something down there because it's horrible. And it's a shame too with Biscayne Road was when did they do Biscayne Road? That was
Biskie and School were last summer.
last summer. So it's just, we know that's not coming. It's frustrating because I know that's not coming around again for a while. For the possibility of paved shoulder work on that till they come back through again. So timing, right? It's just, unfortunately, but I think everybody's in agreement that we'd like to see something a little bit better on Bristol Road for everybody. Yeah, so it's a matter of keeping the state. I'll say your checklist is well thought out. There's a lot in here. There's an impressive amount of information and questions in there. So
well, well, we did borrow it, right? And it
That's fine.
follows
Hey,
the
don't reinvent
complete
the wheel.
street policy. And it,
Yeah.
if anything in it, it's just a really good, as I said, like educational tool, like going through and looking at all these different opportunities to make our streets safer and accessible for all.
And we talked about paring it down, so it was just the bike stuff, but then had a conversation about, well, I mean, it does prompt us to think more broadly and not just bicycle or just pedestrian. And some of it just might be not applicable, but at least if we're going through it,
Right.
To think, well, maybe that is something, to modify it later, it's already in there.
It's an interesting document to, when the comprehensive plan comes out and gets adopted, I'm sure there's speculating, but there's probably some parallels here. I'm guessing.
Do you want to talk through,
But
like comments in the comprehensive plan survey and data so far?
Well, I don't have that right in front of me per se, but it's very
anecdotal evidence, we
similar.
won't hold you to
It's
it.
very similar. I mean, I think we just hear consistently about the paved shoulders. We hear about people who don't feel it's safe for their kids to ride their bikes anywhere in town and that they would love an off-road path for kids to bike safely. We're getting part of that with our multi-use path up to the school from McDonald's. So that'll be a fun
Yeah.
little experiment to see how that works out and get people excited about those kinds of options too.
I used to ride my
Um,
bicycle to Josh's house when I was a kid. I don't do it anymore.
Yep. I'd like to see you try, see how fast you can go
There's
now.
several reasons I don't ride my bike up to your house anymore, but I'll blame it.
It'd be great to see the public health officer out on a bike.
Yeah,
Be a great examil for the rest.
Wouldn't that- Thank you. I just threw myself into the woes on that one. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Andy, looking at this document of going into projects, existing projects and stuff, I mean, it's not a big ask anyway to incorporate at least the questions and whatnot, because it gives you kind of a guideline anyway, and yeah. Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts or?
no, I mean, it was well thought out.
Yeah.
I think we can do it anyway, when we do road projects. The cost of the rights of way and all that, if the width is available, then yes.
Yeah.
But if we have to get into all the rights of way acquiring and all the surveying and doing all that if
Yeah.
funds are struggling, that's
Well, that's
probably not gonna
right.
happen.
That's when you make sure, yeah, then you making sure there's grants and whatnot. A few folks are active looking for grants, state and federal, and we're active and whatnot. So it could be a definitely partnership there. But yeah, like you said before, it always comes down to the budget is, if the money is not there, right? So down to it, but it's definitely worth looking into. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
too, some of this, we don't want to start there. We don't want to start and say, oh, it's too much money. We want to see what are the options, what's available, what can we do? Where is there money we could go after? Instead of just saying, oh, it's too much.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense. And a lot of time with the engineering process, we do a lot of bid alternatives. So I mean, there is, Andy said, there is sometimes some added engineering costs, but oftentimes there's a bid alternative with like, hey, this is what everybody wants. And we have A, and then it's like, we've got to do B or C, but
We did that with Miles.
we did it with
Street
Miles
the
Street.
Curbing options.
Right.
Yeah.
Sidewalk raised with this type
Yeah.
of curbing or this type or not erased.
yeah, that's a good example of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
We had some alternatives.
definitely from the surveys that we did for the comp plan, people want this. So we have to figure out how to help it along.
So I think the resolution says we'll consider these things when we're thinking about road projects and keep it top of mind when we're planning, and that seems reasonable to me. So, and so if you're looking for a motion to, is that what you're looking for?
That's you. Yeah. I think I think the PSAC committee is looking for a motion for support from the select board. So.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the bicycle safety and accessibility and as an endorsement from the board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And you got a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that's everybody there. So we'll, yeah, you guys, we appreciate the work you guys have put into it. So it's,
great. Well, we appreciate
no
it.
problem,
Thank you.
no problem. Thanks for being patient coming in. So we have one more. Anton, like to come up and say something? So, yeah. Figured you weren't gonna hide back there. So, yeah, come on up. Anton.
Very briefly,
Yep.
somewhat related,
Yep.
but in the proposal, it says basically access may be improved in all areas of Damariscotta. And a recent proposal that was submitted by Andy and by Stephen Hofnagel for the Coastal Rivers is an example of a partnership that has great potential, great support by us for the Public Safety and Accessibility Collaborative. And I applaud it. I've said that before when we've recognized partnerships like on Mile Street, where we had a good partnership. And this one, who knows whether it's going to come through, but the other part of that is that there's going to be, if it does, there's going to be a day when Andy's going to say, we need X amount of money from the town. And I hope that we'll be prepared to move in that direction. But mostly I just want to acknowledge the work that's been done on that. It's a fabulous proposal. I've looked at a lot of proposals and it makes a lot of sense for this community, in my opinion. And I hope
Thank you, Anton.
everybody has seen it and been able to digest it and agrees with that.
A
So
lot going on there, but yeah,
I think I've shared
thank
that
you for the
before,
vote.
yeah.
yeah. He's hiding it from us, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anton. Well, thank you.
I should have and didn't when I brought up the climate resiliency partnership mentioned, Michael, do you want to share the survey that's open right now?
Come on up. Yeah. Not on the list, but I'll allow it.
Thanks, Michael Martone. Joshua, I don't think we've met, but I've met the rest of you and town planner. As Andy mentioned, there's the Community Resilience Partnership, which the town is in the process of enrolling in. As part of that, we are rolling out a community climate survey, which is part of the required public engagement, plus also part of the recommended public engagement that we should engage in. So I've got copies of the survey here. It's also online. You may have seen the poster is right on the door as you're coming in. There's one on the bulletin board. You'll see there's some on I think at the Y around town at the library as well. So anybody who would like to, please do take the survey. And then just coming down the pike is a community workshop that I believe we're tentatively targeting December 5th. So there was talk about combining it with the comprehensive plan efforts, but we're going to do it separately. It may be considered, hopefully we can talk about it in the comp plan, but it will be separate. So I also there's a list of 72 items that is part of this community resilience partnership that are like recommended tasks or projects. So I am right now going through and trying to identify any of these tasks that we are working on or the town's already completed, but probably there's quite a few things in here. One of them, bike infrastructure is noted. Anyway, I've shared it with the comp plan committee as well, getting their input, but I just wanted to let you know that this is the survey is open and the workshop will be coming in December. So
Is this survey on?
Will be. I don't
Okay.
think it's yet.
No,
on the town's website.
And we can push it out on social media and constant contact.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Get
Haven't
out
had
there.
it
So,
there.
okay, yeah.
But-
All right, great. I'll go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. With that, do we have any, Jenny, did you have anything okay, I didn't want to adjourn before we get everybody in. So, all right. Yeah, we'll move on to select board discussion. If anybody has anything, we'll start with Dan and cruise down through. Anything to bring to light?
Just that I attended the Lincoln County Budget Committee meeting last week. I did, yes, and was very welcomed. There were only 4 members there. Apparently there were supposed to be 9, but don't quote me on that. That was just the meeting still lasted for 5 hours, and it was really fascinating though, just in terms of learning about Lincoln County, what makes it tick, just sort of getting behind it. It was interesting to learn that like 70% of all the money that Lincoln County's budget goes to essentially public safety, which is the jail, the sheriff's department, 911,
Yeah, wow.
and transporting prisoners. So that's essentially what the county does. And then there's some other stuff, but it's mostly that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that
Yeah.
much. The budget.
Yeah, it's really,
Holy moly.
so if you were interested in their budget, I'm happy to share it with you.
Oh, yeah.
The
I would
short-
love
The
to
short
see it.
version there.
It's, no, it's not a short version. It's,
Not if you sat there for 5 hours.
no, it was good though. So, And the other thing is that, just in terms of next year, the budget percentage increase, they're looking at around 10% next year. So
Increase.
increase
Okay.
is at least in the first draft.
Jail, is that used?
Well, a lot of the costs actually are related to salaries. Almost all of their costs somehow you're either paying for sheriff's folks or people in the jail, the warden and all the
Payroll.
payroll. It's payroll.
Yeah.
It's almost all payroll at this point.
And we use that jail.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Shared
We don't
between
use the
two.
sheriff's
Shared
department.
between, there's two
Well-
bridges shared between Saginaw, and then they have a bunch of, I guess they call them trustees now, something.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
actually half the-
they have contracted out from other counties as
Yeah.
well that come in there as a revenue source.
Yeah, it's about half the prisoners right now are not from Saginaw or from Lincoln. They come from other counties.
Okay.
So anyways,
Oh,
so that's
like
out
that,
there.
yeah.
They're also thinking somewhere down the road that there might be some big infrastructure issues they're gonna have to deal with as well. I guess the sheriff's department and building is in really rough shape. And that's just something coming down the road, and then it could be in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. So
Excellent. Okay.
in terms
It's
of
good to have a
so-
finger on the pulse anyway to.
yeah, and I guess my last item is just a shout out to Josh. I had this vision of Josh the other night. He doesn't know that I was there. He was at the public library.
Oh, yeah.
And I had this vision of Ghostbusters. These guys come out of the truck and we're Ghostbusters, and they're coming into the building. And there was Josh and had Jay Pinkham on the back of
Yeah.
his jacket.
Then I had to go back later.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
After that event?
yeah.
Yeah.
Then we figured out what the problem was.
Yeah, what was it? Just curious.
There's a leaking air handling unit upstairs in the attic, and the water was coming down and went and tripped a detector.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
and that was like the only room that we hadn't, the little janitor's closet that you would never
Okay.
think there'd be a detector in. So,
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it wasn't that cold out that night. You had the whole crowd just waiting outside, waiting for these guys to do their work.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Dan. Tom, I'm gonna, before I forget about you up there, yeah, anything to add this evening?
Well, real quick, I've been volunteering at the Chamber of Commerce. I just want to comment that we have visitors from all over the world coming into that building, as well as all over the country, and most of the people all comment about how great our community is.
No.
So I just thought I'd pass that along. Some of them are almost, over a billion about it. I mean, they're, we really love this area. We hadn't been here before, but we'll be back.
That's good to hear. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Andrea?
I don't have anything to.
Nothing? All right, we'll move on to Josh.
I
Anything
just-
on that end?
I just have one question. This question 3, I guess, the pine tree power referendum. I know Central Maine Power pays taxes in the town of Damariscotta for their infrastructure. Do we know if the Pine Tree Power is going to be paying the same taxes at the level of what CMP is paying at this time? Or is this a non-taxable entity? Just, I haven't heard anything, and so,
I do not know the answer to that.
I believe the answer is yes, that they're going to continue to pay property taxes in each of the towns.
CMP does.
Yeah, and they're going
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
continue.
about Pine Tree Power.
I just wanna, I haven't seen
I don't-
anything
I
about that yet, so.
thought I read something about it, but with 80% certainty, I think they're going to
Okay.
continue.
But if we can find that question out, because they pay substantial amount there, Mascota, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we think about that as well. At least sitting up here when we do our budgets and stuff too, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, if anybody comes across that, yeah, share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find- I'll look for it,
Appreciate
yeah.
it. Yeah, share it out. So.
Yeah, because I would
Good question.
more.
FYI, there's a video out there on the internet between 2 of our state senators, pro and con, debating the issue, question 3. You might
Yeah.
search that out. It's pretty valuable, pretty informative.
Awesome.
Do you know what
Thank
it
you, Tom.
is, Tom?
I'll send you, I'll find it and I'll send it out to you.
Good enough. I have nothing to add tonight to prolong anything, so
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I mean, motion adjourned. Second, Andrew's gonna second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's good. Tom, all right, 5 of us.
Tom wants to keep going.
Yep. Tom, keep going.